Hello and welcome everyone. Looks like we have some brand new news for Total War Warhammer 3. A blog post was just released showcasing what's going to be coming in patch 4.2 for the update to Shadows of Change and what is going to be changing going forward for the Thrones of Decay DLC pack. So let's get right into this. I've skimmed right a little bit through this blog post, but we'll read it together here and take a look and see what's changing. So, hey everyone, I'm Richard Aldrich, Game Director for Total War Warhammer. Today I want to share some news with you on new content that'll be arriving soon for Shadows of Change with patch 4.2, free for existing owners, and bolstering DLC for anyone picking it up post patch 4.2. I'll be covering what you can expect going forward from the Total War Warhammer series, taking a peek behind the curtain as to how we go about planning, creating, and marketing our DLCs, and having a close look at some new additions Grand Cathay will be receiving as part of patch 4.2. Reflecting on Shadows of Change, I'll cut straight to it. We didn't give you enough new characters and units to play with at the original release of Shadows of Change. We believe we can put this right for you, having listened to your feedback these past months to provide you with better and more varied options for your armies. Ooh, I can't wait to see. We know that you, our community, are as passionate about the game as we are, and we're pleased to say that many of your suggestions are being enacted upon. Not all ideas and requests are possible though, and this kinda does make sense. The era of Karl Franz is, as you've come to expect, a rich and exciting setting for Total War. Okay. And we work closely with the Warhammer studio to ensure that content for this era of Warhammer is as faithfully represented in our game as possible. All of the forces featured within Shadows of Change DLC can look forward to a sizable collection of reinforcements, but we won't be adding Hag Mothers as generic lords, as Mother Astankia is the only Hag Mother of Kislev. See, that's not correct in terms of lore. She's one of a few. There's not very many of them, but she's known as the most powerful and the oldest, but there's supposed to be several Hag Mothers of Kislev. Nice try. Similarly, the relationship between the Gospodars and Ungls is taking a back seat, as we look less at tensions of historic Kislevite culture and more at what defines Kislev as a unified military force in the era of Karl Franz. So it is a little bit unfortunate we're not getting Hag Mothers, but we'll see what else is coming instead. Similarly, we won't be adding Beaks to Zangors. As while this avian characteristic occurs in other Warhammer settings, these elite Gors in the old world represent those beastmen who have drawn the eye of the Changer of Ways, rather than a totally separate offshoot breed. See, I don't think they were ever an offshoot breed. This was a mutation that some of them had. I don't think we ever asked for all of the Beastmen to have beaks, but just a few every now and again, like over in your historical Total Wars, where a lot of units will have different weapons and have different armor types, because that's how armies are represented. So the Beastmen of the Changer of the Ways would be mutated in different ways, so a couple with beaks, not all, would be a little bit of flavor we would enjoy. But as ever, we aim to ensure whatever we do add to Total War Warhammer 3 is as authentic and experienced of the world of Warhammer as possible. Choked up a bit there. What to expect moving forward. Looking to the future, the team and I love the Warhammer universe and want to make as much content for it as possible. Whether that be to add further exciting changes like the Golden Knight, ooh, that'd be awesome. Spectacular, I bet the Golden Knight's coming here with the Shadows of Change update. Spectacular units and creatures, yes, I'm looking at you, Mighty Hot Pot. Interesting. Or other unexplored lore. We still plan to make many more DLCs for Total War Warhammer 3, with some of them like Thrones of Decay following the same premise and composition as Shadows of Change, where we will add to develop the 3 existing races from across the Warhammer world. Or add to and develop, that is. Accompanied by our patches and updates, this will give us an opportunity to go back to some of your most beloved races and give them some attention, which you definitely need. I'm looking at you, Lizardmen. Below, I have laid out what you can expect to see for Shadows of Change and Thrones of Decay in terms of the content and features for those products moving forward. So for DLC content for Shadows of Change and Thrones of Decay, so this is for both, we'll have 3 Legendary Lords, which is currently as it sits, each playable in Realms of Chaos and Immortal Empires campaigns, which most people aren't playing the Realms of Chaos, but if you're liking a little bit more of an inline kind of directed story campaign, these are quite fun. I don't mind them at all. Mortal Empires is still my go-to. Unique gameplay mechanics for each Legendary Lord, which should make sense. 3 Legendary Heroes, 1 per race. This is fantastic. 3 Lords, 1 per race. We're really ramping things up. 3 Heroes, 1 per race, so 3 Legendary Heroes and regular old generic ones. 5 units, Infantry, Cavalry, Monsters per race, which is, I think, 2 more than we received with this one, or about 1 to 2 more. And then 3 Regiments Renown per race. We'll also be getting 1 free LC character, so for Shadows of Change it was Akeled Hellbrass, and for Thrones of Decay we're getting an extra Legendary Lord. Ooh, I wonder who that could be. Speculate in the comments, what do you think? Who do you think we're going to get? With the Legendary Heroes for Shadows of Change, it wasn't the most obvious, so I bet it'll be someone kind of off the wall here for Thrones. For potential further content, we'll have a newest spell lore, new mounts, and an additional new free LC. I don't know exactly what this means, subject to the IP, theme of the DLC, and where applicable. So we've got ourselves a little comparison chart here. So Shadows of Change at launch had 3 lords, which doesn't change. Had 1 legendary hero, so we're adding this little +2 just means they're adding 2 to the original, so it threw me off a little bit, but that's what it's supposed to be. So there's 3 now, 3 lords, 3 heroes, 16 units instead of 10, and then 1 new magic lore, which I'm hoping is the Lore of Hags, and then we'll get 1 additional free LC. Also, there's a new free LC coming as well. Interesting. Can't wait to see what that's going to be. Thank you again for your invaluable feedback since the release of Shadows of Change, and in particular, the thoughts on improving the rosters and having parity across the races with the content we are adding as part of them. As mentioned above, each race will now have a Legendary Lord, Legendary Hero, Lord, Hero, 5 units, and 3 Legiments Renown. This, we hope, will allow you to lead thematic armies that are better connected to the Legendary Lords in the DLC, add both lower tier troops and big centerpiece monsters, and start to fill in some of the gaps and needs of the races in the game that you've asked for. This will be fantastic. Yeah, no, having an actual, a Lord, a Hero, a Legendary Lord, and then a good chunky 5 units, that's going to make each new addition feel more or less complete. We'll have to see exactly what's added each time, but I can't wait to see this change. Where possible, with further content, we will also be adding thematic lores of magic, mounts for new and existing characters to make use of, and making some much requested free LC where it makes sense. Cough, cough, Katerin Sled. Yes, that makes sense, and also it would make sense that we have this as we have the new sled mounts for all of the Witch Mothers. Katerin deserves her reindeer. Alright, so Grand Cathay Edition. So we're only going to get the kind of a sneak peek as to what's coming to Cathay for this blog post, but what is coming from what I skimmed over is incredible, so let's get to it. To set the scene, when we went back to look at what we could add to enrich the offering of Grand Cathay and Shadows of Change, we focused heavily on the theme that surrounds the Jade Dragon, his celestial court. Okay. Having his eyes and ears everywhere, having the ability to quickly react and protect his empire, to be the emperor in all intents and purposes. This meant plenty of conversations with Games Workshop in looking to find characters and units that best complemented this approach, and made sense from a lore perspective. Also, they had to invent a whole bunch of new stuff. Looking into what we hadn't included previously in Total War Warhammer 3 or Shadows of Change quickly helped us fill in some of the gaps in Grand Cathay's roster, such as with the Gatemaster, he has been long awaited, and the Celestial Lion. The Lion in particular was something that almost made the cut for the original release of Shadows of Change. That's a little bit suspicious. So I'm super excited to see it in the roster now as both a monstrous unit and a mount options. They probably cut it. We're going to put in for Li Dao or whoever the next Dragon Child was going to be. Glad that was reversed. But it also got us to look a little bit further afield too, as you will see with our first ever legendary hero for Grand Cathay, Saitang the Watcher. I've probably butchered that one. Let me know if you know the proper pronunciation. I'm going to continue to say Saitang, but I'm hoping it's right. So the Watcher, Sentinel of the Heavens. He's a legendary hero. Let me introduce you to Grand Cathay's first colossal legendary hero. Ooh, it's probably like a Terracotta Sentinel. Kind of like Sahinizmet if you have played the Tomb King's extended mod. We wanted to add Saitang to move away from what is currently known about Grand Cathay, and showcase some of the other inhabitants of this mighty empire. Saitang represents an ever-watching protective figure, like Batman, not dissimilar to Yuan Bo, but as you will see is a fair bit larger. Saitang gives us the opportunity. He's bigger than Dragon Form Yuan Bo. He might be even bigger than a normal Terracotta Sentinel. Saitang gives us the opportunity to expand on Grand Cathay's use of magical constructs, something that is core to this great nation and how it protects itself, along with giving them devastating long-ranged artillery-like potential. I'm liking how this is going already. Saitang also lends themselves nicely to the connection the Jade Dragon has to the winds of Azir, and the more magical elements of Cathay. We've got some new lore. Oh, look at this concept art. This isn't real. Can he fly? He is a Terracotta Sentinel Angel Archer. Yes, please. Known as the Guardian of the Sky, the Heavenly Bowmen are commonly the people of the southern provinces. Yeah, he was definitely coming with Li Dao initially. Simply the Watcher, Saitang is the great sentinel that stands atop the mountains of heaven, towering over the other sentinels. Saitang is an imposing sight with its outstretched wings and a great stone-feathered helm. Those who have witnessed Saitang in battle claim no armor, no barrier can turn aside the arrows it fires from its great wind bow. shafts piercing the ranks of enemies and even the iron hides of fell beasts. And though Satan cannot fly in the true sense, its power allows it to leap great distance. Oh, I cannot wait. That's guaranteed going to be part of its activated abilities. Probably jump a long ways. Even jumping from mountain peak to mountain peak in defiance of the Empire. We're going to be playing some Daggerfall. New lore is told by Games Workshop. It looks fantastic. Can we see what it looks like in-game? I mean, he is a big old boy, isn't he? A normal Cathayan soldier only comes up to about its knee. Or just about its shin, even. Good grief. It looks a little bit concerning that it's not going to be great in a melee, but if you have a bow the size of a skyscraper, you just swing this thing around and it's going to cause all sorts of havoc. Sweet stuff. Above you can see the first step we take when designing and adding content to our DLCs, starting with a thumbnail image. That makes sense to me. It gives us a quick and flexible method to work within our games, oh, coffee all over my lap! Help! I'm melting! It gives us a quick and flexible method to work with Games Workshop in first realizing the character or unit. Its job is to get across the scale, flavor, functionality, and work required to bring this model to life, but be easily adaptable to suit the needs of the IP and the game before we move into the next stage of the creation process, the concept art. Alright, quick jump cut. Neighborhood Jets for doing their formation runs over the apartment, so we are now back. When entering the concept stage of the creation process, we are looking up to the visual quality of the model from the thumbnail, adding details, looking at materials and textures to use. This will act as a comprehensive blueprint to guide our 3D character artist in the creation of the final model for you to play with in-game. We also use this as a sounding board for how our animations and designs will work, tweaking the size and scale of body parts to work with the game's engine, creating a proxy model to test things out, and maximizing the fun of each character and creature. Really love how they show us the creative process here. That's one of my favorite things about these blog posts. And look at him in battle. Looks incredible. Made out of almost like a white marble. I'm sure there'll be a type of lore associated with whatever this is. It might even be a type of jade or warpstone itself. So now you know a little of the process behind how we created our characters. Let's discuss what Satang is good at doing in-game. It looks like blowing stuff up. So for a gameplay overview, Satang the Watcher is a giant-sized legendary hero, I think the first of his kind, which, disregarding mounted characters, is a rare sight in Total War Warhammer 3. Much like the Bone Giant of the Tomb Kings, Satang also uses a giant magical bow to fire artillery-grade projectiles into enemy lines. I'll keep him up here because he looks awesome. Satang is also relatively strong in close combat, with good defensive stats and the ability to buff nearby constructs. Hello. Satang doesn't fly, being a construct, even with those mighty wings, but can jump large distances to close the gap on the enemy. That is going to be terrifying. He's going to be a bouncing boy of doom. Construct, with the introduction of Satang into the game, we have reevaluated the role of constructs on the Cathayan roster. The Terracotta Sentinel and both Guardian Lions are now considered constructs. Glad to see that. The Guardian Lions made sense or did not make any sense that they were a unit that could rout. With the same rules as constructs found on the Tomb Kings. Good. Satang has the ability that synergizes with this type of unit. Tough and heavy, Satang has a high amount of armor, which enables it to shrug off most attacks from non-armor-piercing sources. As a heavier character, Satang will be able to send smaller entities flying with ease. Even with heavy armor, though, you can still focus fire them down quite quickly with missiles, so we'll just have to see how high that armor it is. I'm guessing it's around 120, so we'll find out. He's also got a giant bow. Makes sense. Armed with the wind bow, Satang can deliver long-range attacks and singular targeted shots with devastating precision. And what will be really cool is to see this wind bow here. I betcha we're going to see this as an artillery piece that is actually on a more grounded mount, but he's able to actually pick it up and wield it as an actual weapon. But I bet you anything these are supposed to be a grounded artillery piece that's more horizontal. So we'll see, kind of like a magical ballista. The Gate Master of the Celestial Cities is going to be the hero we're gaining here, which he looks fantastic, and we've been long speculating that he's coming to the game. You may have seen art of this character since the release of Total War Warhammer 3, a character which didn't quite make the final cut. But why? He is now here to stand tall and add a bit of melee strength to your Grand Cathay frontline, which I'm happy to see, but why didn't he make the final cut? Jade Warriors are the profession soldiers of Grand Cathay. The Gate Master of the Celestial Cities are their leaders. These are the leader Jade Warriors. Cool. To earn the title of Gate Master, a Jade Warrior must have served in defense of their city, and many are veterans of the Empire's many wars. Like their soldiers, a Gate Master is trained in the defensive warfare and how best to defend their city. and as such know how to read the lay of the land before a battle. This can prove useful in acting the will of their Lord Magistrate, who trusts their gate masters above all other officers in their armies. So perhaps they have a bit of synergy with, or extra synergy to go with the terrain. That'll be, let's see if they have anything for us. It looks quite awesome, just kind of looks like an upgraded version of the Celestial Dragon Guard into hero form, which we were all very much expecting. So for his gameplay overview, the Gate Master is a defensive line-holding hero with hybrid weaponry. Using his abilities, he can buff the defenses of nearby troops, whilst shooting enemies with his crossbow from behind the main battle line. Oh, he's got a Pavese crossbow. Or just maybe a hand bow. A fun fact is the Gate Master is the first hero with a conventional crossbow that we put in the game, Dark Elf repeaters notwithstanding, which will serve the armies of Cathay well in many hybrid scenarios. I guess that's very true. The Dark Elves have the lores with the crossbows. So for his hybrid combatant, the Gate Master uses a combination of sword and shield and crossbow, making him a very adaptive unit in all forms of combat. He's going to be defensive, he excels at defensive warfare with several abilities that buff friendly battle lines. And then he is mounted, or he can be mounted on a warhorse. Giggity. The Gate Master can quickly move between the battle lines where he is needed most. So just a warhorse, probably going to be best to keep him on foot unless you want him to be more utilizing that crossbow and more as a, I guess, a duelist for enemy heroes. He only gets the warhorse. We also are getting the Great Moonbird, a monster and monstrous mount. Oh, so this is a new unit. Look at him, he's horrifying. And kind of goofy looking. It's a great big demon chicken. I love it. It's very reminiscent of the High Elven mount here. This little seat looks very High Elven. So continuing the theme of the Celestial Court, and to give Grand Cathay some added flying power, we've added the Great Moonbird as both a monster single-entity flying unit, can't wait to use it, and a mount option for a variety of characters to field. And we have to have an entirely bird-themed army at some point. We'll have the Crowmen and the Moonbirds. Alright, so favorite of the Empress, the Great Moonbirds are found in the highest peaks of the Mountains of Heaven. They're said to make their nests in craters of Mansleeb, the silver moon of the Warhammer world, and only fly down to Earth when called by either the Empress or the most powerful astromancers. Fearsome to behold in battle, the Moonbird are often wreathed in silvery flames, or moonfire, which burns the enemies of the Empire who come into contact with it. Powerful lords, especially wizards of the Celestial Court, might even be granted a Moonbird as a mount, though this is usually only for a short time before the creature once more returns to the heavens. So they'll have a kind of a special kind of flame attack. Hopefully we get to see a bit of that in their actual combat animations. They look very unique. I for one can't wait to see them on the battlefield. It'd be interesting to see someone like getting whiplash trying to ride on this little Moonbird here though. For their gameplay overview, similar to the High Elven Phoenix, makes sense. The Great Moonbird is a magical flying monster with flaming attacks and a powerful AoE vortex ability. So they're already going to be one of the best flyers in the game. Grand. So new strategies will become viable in battle, whether it is providing air-to-air defense for sky junks or striking deep into enemy lines. Great Moonbird is also a mount for the Astromancer, which offers them a whole new level of battlefield mobility. It'll be cool to get them on. Well, I guess since they come from the Celestial Court themselves, it would not make sense that the Alchemist would have them, would it? Airborne, the Great Moonbird can fly and traverse otherwise impassable terrain. Makes sense. They've got Moonfire. By flapping its wings, the Great Moonbird can produce a vortex of Moonfire, which damages all enemies caught within its radius. We'll see just how much damage. They are both flaming and magical. Much like the Arcane Phoenix of the High Elves, the Great Moonbird can deal both flaming and magical attacks. So they're giving Cathay a Arcane Phoenix. Seems smart. That's not gonna backfire at all. Cathay is becoming this line is what we're coming up on next, but Cathay is gonna become incredibly powerful. So the Celestial Lion, monster and monstrous mount, probably my favorite model of the new additions to Grand Cathay. I concur. The Celestial Lion's beauty and strength is second to none, acting as both a single-entity monstrous flying unit as a mount option for a variety of characters from Grand Cathay. The Celestial Lion will strike terror into those that stand within its way. I mean, look at it. I'm betting it's going to perform very similar to a Bale Taurus in combat, but he looks amazing. Winged lions exist in the east, believed to have been descended from natural beasts warped during the coming of chaos within the world. Unlike the fell manticores of the west, these celestial beasts have been purified by the power of the Dragon Emperor and live within the sacred hunting grounds of the Forest of the Moon. Favored sorcerers or warriors may be gifted such a creature by the dragons, riding into battle and striking fear into foes of the Empire. I mean, if you can't have a dragon or a longma, in fact, if you can't have a longma, I would definitely take a celestial lion. Alright, we'll cut out a little bit of my nerding out. Gameplay overview, the Celestial Lion is another flying single-entity monster for the armies of Cathay to utilize. Similar to a Griffin or Manticore, it is able to provide air support on a budget compared to higher tier units like the Great Moonbird. Oh, it's actually a lower tier than the Great Moonbird. I wouldn't have guessed that. The Celestial General can also make use of this beast as a mount. So it's only an option for the General, even though it says it's for several different people. What does it say? For a variety of characters from Grand Cathay, so maybe we get some heroes that'll have access to it as well. I'm not sure, it seems like it's only for the General. Alright, same as the others, we've got 3 points that it has that they are going for here. It is fast, the Celestial Lion has exceptional ground mobility, making it perfect for harassing tactics or flanking. It's also going to be able to fly high above the battlefield. The Celestial Lion can traverse otherwise impassable terrain. It's very fast on the ground and in the air, and it's going to be fearsome, so by utilizing its fearsome roar ability and the terror attribute, Celestial Lion can strike fear into the hearts of nearby enemies. Yeah, a flying, very speedy terror bomb is going to be great for just ping-ponging around in the back line and scaring off all of those units you don't want to be fighting. And it looks like it is indeed going to be only a mount option for the Celestial General for now. So before I end today, I wanted to cover an omission that you might have been hoping for in Grand Cathay's roster update, an Elite Core Infantry unit. There's a very good reason for this, and trust me, we aren't monkeying about. Ah, I see. We're going to get some elite monkeys. As first we explained, this is keeping the focus on Celestial Court and the Jade Dragon. Second being that the Celestial Courts don't have a unit of this type to add. That said, we've only just scratched the surface of the possible content we can create for Grand Cathay. And as I mentioned earlier, we have plans to support the game with lots of new content for this foreseeable future. I do find it a little bit interesting that the Celestial Courts don't have any amount of kind of bodyguard unit or something that's incredibly elite that would be under the command of the acting emperor only. But alright, we'll let this one pass. So when can you expect patch 4.2 and all of its additions to SOC? Well, the team are still working flat out to have everything ready for release, but we want to be upfront with you that there is a chance our intended date could shift slightly. This is the true nature of video game development in spotting those last minute issues or adding that final polish, which can lead to release dates changing. Really important for us all here that we get patch 4.2 right for you, and I very much agree this is a very important update for them, so we won't rush it before it's ready. As it stands today, we're on track to release it in the middle of the month. Like I said, this could shift closer to the end of February depending on how the remaining work goes. I'm optimistic and the team are super energized in getting everything done and ready to put into your hands. Next week, I'll be back on a deep dive of the additional units coming to Tzeentch, along with the confirmation of 4.2's release date. And I cannot wait to see the additional units coming to both Tzeentch and Kislev. Rich ends up with thanks for taking the time to read this. Chat to you all next week, Rich, Game Director, and the Total War Warhammer team. But all in all, I do really like everything that this blog post is showing off. I'm thinking that if we are going to continue this trend going forward, these DLC are going to be worth the $25 price point, with each faction getting that additional generic Lord and Hero and Legendary Lord and a few extra units. It's going to really make the release feel a bit more complete. I'm really hoping this is a positive trend for the future, but again, let me know what you all think in the comments below. That is all the time I've got for today. I have been Space Wizard Total War. Remember, leave a like for the like god and a sub for the sub thon. See you on the next one.